wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. And after a heavy, low vibes show last week where I went off on a rant, everybody else went off on rants. Let's not rant this week, eh? Let's just try to think some positive thoughts, even though this was another week from hell for Toronto FC. On this week's show, we're going to recap the losses against Orlando and St. Louis. We're going to reopen the Michael Singh notebook, talk a little bit about transfers as it is transfer season now. The transfer window is open. We have a new incoming player, Franco Ibarra, who may not want to be here at all anyway, but he has been sent here by gunpoint by Atlanta. And we have a special guest joining us today. Eric Giacometti, the now former social media manager for Toronto FC, will be joining us to talk about his favorite memories at the club as we try to remember some good times at Toronto FC, because remember, we did have good times at this club. And of course, we will get to the burning question this week presented by Nesker. So a lot to get into. Before we do, just a friendly reminder. Obviously, if you're watching this right now, you have found it. But please let your friends know we do have a new YouTube channel. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and then hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our shows. It is at youtube.com/@TTID podcast. Okay. So let's dig into it. Michael Singh, Jeffrey P. Nesker, as always. Gents, how you doing? I know we wanted to bring back Food Corner. I actually have a really good Food Corner a little piece to bring up. But first of all, how were your weekends?
I just want Food Corner now.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think I'm excited about Food Corner. Happy birthday, George. It was lovely celebrating your birthday, George. However, the one time this season that I'm not in section 116, Justin Morrow comes there with every all-for-one camera and gets like hugs from every supporter. I am absolutely snake bitten this year. It's craziness. That looked like fun, Mikey. What did he say? Did he pinch your nipple when he went into the hug? Or
a little bit. He kind of got in there. I was a little surprised.
Because it looked like he gave you like a proper.
He gave you a little purple nurple there. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, a little purple nurple. Yeah. Did he make fun of your shirt? Or
did not mean it.
Did he? Yeah. What did he whisper in your ear? Like, your fits are insane. Way to go, buddy. It's not the Onyx kit.
Yeah, no. So for those who don't know, Justin Morrow, beloved former left back for Toronto FC, he's been working with the club for a couple of years. He is moving out of the country. Not a negative thing. Nothing negative's going on there. It's just a move for the family. So this was his last game with the club. So obviously, Annie, brilliant nitwit online, if you don't know, did her banner magic again, because that's what she does, and put together an amazing little thing that he's taken with him. And then, of course, he came over to say hello and stuff like that. So it was good to see him before he left. He's leaving like this week, so we'll keep in touch. But yeah, no, he kind of caught me there. I was like, whoa, what's the? But we had a little laugh over that, so it was good.
Yeah, that's what I was hinting at. One of the things I was hinting at last week, actually, when I said that it would just be the beginning of some of the departures that we're going to hear from TFC. So another one today joining us, Eric. I'm super excited about that, because obviously he's had such a big role from our perspectives and from the fans' perspective of just building that community and keeping that relationship between TFC and its fans still alive in some capacity. So. Yeah, it does feel like a little bit in some way end of an era here for the club, and I guess we'll see where they go from there and how they kind of fill some of these voids now.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. So really quickly, Food Corner. So I went to York Lions Stadium yesterday, Forge FC taking on York United FC in the Canadian Premier League.
Hell of a game.
4-0. It was great. Yeah. It was great. I was in the away section. It was amazing. However, one thing I will give York United, they've got the Empanada King food truck down there, or not even food truck. It's just like a tent that those guys set up. The empanadas, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was
good empanada.
Amazing. Yeah, like they no longer have Charmin's proper there. It's no longer at the stadium.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Well,
that.
it wasn't at the stadium yesterday, so I don't know if it's like permanent or they just had a game off.
It's not.
No,
It's
not.
not.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, to me, empanadas I mean, obviously you still got to eat it a certain way, but like Cornish pasties, empanadas, give me food in its own box, and I can carefully avoid wearing the rest of it, and I'm a happy person. Yeah.
Yeah, also the salsa, fantastic. Great amount of spice too. When it actually says spicy, it actually is spicy, which is like that's
Mexican.
That's how you gotta go. That's how you gotta go. So that was
if it's spicy for you, it will destroy me, especially in the kind of weather that we had yesterday.
It was fantastic.
Just a word on York United. Like that environment is legit. It's legit. I don't understand how they haven't been able to get people in those games. You know, it could be as simple as cheaper beers or cheaper grub, but like you have a captive audience there of 25,000 strong students, and having gone to York myself, I can tell you that experience is preferable to sitting in a basement pub at Bethune College and feeling weird about it. So it is a bit of a mystery to me why they're having so much problems getting butts in seats there.
That is another podcast for another day, man. Do a whole podcast on that. By the way, I sat in those basement pubs in Bethune at my time at York. Great time. Almost failed.
Oh yeah, I mean, booze makes everything better, but I'm just saying, like at a certain point, you do perpetually remind yourself that you are in fact sitting in a basement in some industrial warehouse, and you could be somewhere else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. Look, we'll get into it. Obviously, listen. I said what I said last week. A lot of people said what they said over the week. I think a lot of frustration sort of came out, and I think it's good to get that out and have that perspective. Yep. Thank you to everybody who kind of said some kind words in terms of what I've said. Also, those who did not agree with me as well, which is completely fine. Like, I think that there is a lot of feelings. Everybody's feeling their feelings right now. Toronto FC, and look, the losses this week did not help. 4-0 at Orlando and 1-0 against St. Louis on Saturday night. Gents, just wanted to get your thoughts quickly on both games, and we don't really have to go into the gory details of both games, but just in terms of this is now 3 matches for Terry Dunfield, no goals. And a couple conceded, and one really ugly loss Tuesday night in Orlando. But wanted to get your thoughts on sort of the week in terms of just on the field, how things looked. Mike, if you want to start, and then Jeff, I'll come to you.
I completely forgot the 4-0 loss was.
Yeah, sorry, I had to bring it up.
It feels like it's been so long. I just quickly on that 4-0 loss. That was kind of the nail in the coffin, I think, for a lot of people. Not necessarily for Terry Dunfield's era, but like just this club in general. And I'm not even just talking about this year. It just feels like if they needed another reason for people to kind of recognize and fans kind of recognize that this really is rock bottom for Toronto FC. I really feel like that Orlando City game was another reminder. Just stuff that could go wrong in that game ended up going wrong in that game. And of course, capped off with a Federico Bernardeschi red card, which, we can debate whether or not it was actually a red or not. It probably wasn't, but still not the position he wanted to put himself in. And I think Federico came out, he acknowledged that afterwards, but at that point of the match where you see the direction that things are heading, see the amount of kids that are coming on, for him to take a red card there, or just put himself in a position to take a red card at least, that was completely unacceptable. So again, just another nail in the coffin. And then, you know what? This Saturday, having caught most of the game, like I like their performance at times. They were going up against a really good St. Louis City team. We know all about the injury issues with this TFC team. We know all about the missing players. And for them to actually go out there and really dominate possession, dominate play, at least through that first half. I mean, it really felt like the players grinded and battled and came out with a little bit of resilience in a way that we haven't seen in a little bit from this group. So I know the end result was unfortunate. It was just one defensive gaffe. I know Jaquil wants that play back where he kind of lets the ball drop over his head, but I think the sentiment around the fans who were at that game and who watched that game, I think the sentiment was they enjoyed watching that version of Toronto FC more than what we've seen in the past couple of weeks. And I'd love to get, Jeff, your thoughts on that too, if you agree with that sentiment.
Well, I mean, the lead that's been carefully buried is that we were missing our two fancy schmancy DP wingers on the day. And, I'm not going to agree or disagree because you know my opinion on our two fancy schmancy DP wingers. But it was nice to see people saying, wow, they looked better out there without the DPs. I'm not prepared to say yes or no. Hey guys, how's that new coach bump that everybody was expecting?
Yeah, it's not here. It's not coming.
And then the only other thing I want to say is, like, I don't believe flounce posts. If somebody is taking that much energy on whatever social media or device that they're using to write out all the reasons why they're walking away from TFC forever and canceling their season tickets and going to, light all their old jerseys on fire, I've already stopped paying attention, because 9 times out of 10, that's just a cry for attention. It's not rooted in anything in reality. So yeah, naturally we're going to get a bunch of people saying, wearing their Celtic jerseys on TFC fan TV, talking about how shit the club is. But I don't really pay it as much attention as I just don't care about it anymore. If I'm being honest. Yeah, look, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. This club is just finding new and different ways to disappoint and frustrate and make us all insane. And
was Saturday's performance disappointing, frustrating, all of those things for you?
Yeah, it was, because I still live in a world where it was a loss at home to a team that are, despite the fact that they're breaking records, an expansion club in this league.
Their first place in the West.
Their first place in the West. They're also missing their two biggest attacking pieces. So at the end of the day, we've now lived through moral victories with the Canadian men's national team, moral victories with TFC. My patience for celebrating so-called moral victories has never been lower. Far be it for me to get into a mic rant and be called a plastic fan by people who have no bearing on the subject. But yeah, it is what it is, man. Like I have given up all hope on this season. I just want to see the moves that need to be made at the top happen with as little pain as possible, what I feel is inevitable. And if you want me to spell it out in sharp relief, it's Bill Manning stepping down as the president of this organization. I hate to be so absolute, but I don't think there's any other reasonable conclusion. And I'd like to see the team save some of its tam, gam, and thank you, ma'am, because we're always out of it when we need it, but we seem to have a war chest of it when we don't. Whoever's coming in next to so and so forth fix the club, I want them to have the biggest war chest we could possibly give them. Yeah. So, did they look better? Absolutely. Were they still making rookie mistakes? Absolutely. Was there still not a lot of cohesiveness anywhere? Absolutely. Are they playing tactics that are repeatable? I don't think so, because Terry's seat is a musical chair. So I don't know how much more positive I can take out of it, and apply it moving forward to what this team hopes to become or where they hope to go.
Yeah, I think Saturday was encouraging, at least in the first half. I thought Jaquil was great. I thought, he provided a lot of spark and impetus as a winger. And then from just an overall perspective, I thought they were pretty good in trying to be a little bit more progressive in the way that they played. However, the thing that has plagued this team is they come out in the second half and they kind of get dominated in the second half. Mm-hmm. And that kind of happens again, right? Where St. Louis sort of upped the pressure a little bit. And yes, Jaquil definitely is going to want that back, right? Like that was a ball you probably just attack and try to control and not let sort of run across your body, and didn't really understand his space in terms of who was there around him. And that's how the ball gets picked off. But I think overall, I think there's some encouraging signs there. I'm not saying encouraging in the sense that they're going to turn this around, right? Like I agree with you, Jeff. I think for the most part, you're going to need a miracle in terms of the season and when you're talking playoffs or something like that. But right now, I think you're kind of in evaluation mode in terms of players you've got and figuring out what, if they have any value towards the future a little bit. They're going to continue to roll out we're still going for the playoffs. We're still going to try. And, let's get into sort of the transfer talk a bit and sort of this loan for Franco Ibarra from Atlanta.
Before we do, just two things. Mike, did I answer your question, Mikey Singh? Or did I just sort of dance around the answer that you were looking for?
No, I think you answered it.
Okay. And number two, we know how to play soccer, right? Because the one thing that I noticed on Saturday was just how awful everybody's first touch was. Like, to a man. There were long balls that were just going off feet into the stands, into touch. Errant passes were everywhere. I mean, can we call this a Bob Bradley hangover anymore? Like, did he really mess up our squad so badly with his adherence to principles of play that now they've forgotten how to take a lobbed pass? Because that I found alarming. Anybody want to tackle that, or am I speaking up my asshole?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I agree with that per se. Look, I think this is something that's been happening during the season when Bob Bradley was here. So, from that perspective, look, I think that you just realize what kind of quality you have on the team outside of your DPs, right? Like just speaks to that, right? And sort of, again, looping this back sort of towards transfers and what do we do with this team now and how do we get them sort of into some kind of form. The transfer window is open. We've just made a move. We've brought in Franco Ibarra from Atlanta United on a loan. So it's a 6-month loan. There is no option to buy. There is very unlikely going to be some kind of agreement between Atlanta and TFC for any kind of permanent deal. I think a lot of you who are watching this show read the Athletic piece, I think from Philippe Cardenas.
It is. Yep. You're right.
Yeah. Who covers Atlanta United quite extensively and basically laid out that Franco Ibarra did not want to leave Atlanta at all, which you can kind of understand. But I think also it's not just that he's leaving. I think it's that he is leaving for a club he does not want to go to. You can have a whole segment in another podcast on MLS moves and how they work and are they fair to players in their situations. You can definitely have that conversation. But TFC made the move to take the loan. Atlanta was forced into it because they have too many U22 signings because they've mismanaged. That's another team that has mismanaged their roster as well.
Horrific roster management. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess my question for you guys is, just starting on Ibarra and then maybe going into sort of transfers. I know there aren't really like a ton of deep rumors right now for TFC because budgets are what they are at the moment. But how do we feel about this move? I've watched a little bit of Atlanta United outside of playing TFC. Look, like the guy is solid. I won't call him spectacular, but he is a holding midfielder, something that we've kind of been crying out for a little bit. So how do you think he fits into TFC, and how do you think this sort of 6-month engagement goes? Because he hasn't started it off on the most ringing endorsement, at least from the start.
I guess the first thing that came to mind for me, like, is that a position that we need this summer? Because it's a 6-month loan. We have a pretty good amount of midfielders when they're all available, and it seems like they're all on track to start becoming available again. Obviously, we start with Jonathan Osorio returning from the Gold Cup this Saturday. Lonzo Coelho is back healthy. He's back getting minutes. Mark Anthony Kaye has been consistently available essentially the entire season. Brandon Cervania, same thing, essentially the entire season. You have guys like Kosi and you have guys like DeAndre who can also play in that midfield. And then Michael Bradley is supposed to be
alive,
ramping up and supposed to be on the verge of returning.
Got some questions around that, but yeah,
in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so do I now, because the last time that we got a real update on Michael was, I think maybe the second last time Bob Bradley spoke, and he said that Michael was going for a it was around the 6-week mark. He said Michael was going for essentially a consultation just to see how things were progressing, and that would be an important consultation, because after that, Michael would be able to return back onto the field, and he would start being able to ramp up his workload, essentially, in order to strengthen the muscle and get back to playing. So it would be like 6 weeks of a projected like 10-week recovery at that point. I think we're about 8 weeks in now, so he should either be really close, or maybe something else happened. Whether it be injury related or maybe even not injury related.
Quit related, yeah.
And yeah, of course our midfield's weak. No one's saying it's not like incredibly weak right now, but is it the most important position on the field for us to go out and address? That's what I'm
100%.
I don't think it is. Like when you're healthy, you have Marc-Anthony Kaye, you have Brandon Cervania, you have Michael Bradley, you have Alonso Coelho, all available. Victor Vasquez is ramping up, and he's gonna potentially be, available.
Stop it.
He was on the field 2 weeks ago, and he was doing some individual work. So, look, like, I question whether maybe some of the injuries aren't progressing the way they were, or B, if signing Ibarra is more so an audition to see what type of midfielder this team needs next.
Oh, I hate it. Oh my God.
So maybe they're looking at this as basically what's left, like a 4-month audition, in terms of not necessarily Ibarra, but in terms of a holding midfielder who's a great tackler, great ball distributor, a guy who can kind of fill that gap in a way we haven't really seen out of someone in Toronto FC. No one at TFC has Ibarra's profile, correct? Like he's a different type of holding midfielder than
for sure
TFC have had.
Michael Bradley, I guess, would be kind of the closest thing to. Yeah.
The other thing about this deal, what it does essentially lock in, unless the team is going to miraculously find a way to move Ayo Akinola, which they're not. The one thing that it locks in is that they're not going to sign that third DP this summer.
Yeah, they can't.
Right? They can't. If they have 2 U22 players, you can't go out and you can't sign a third DP. So just to kind of to move along from Ibarra, what I'm hearing is that's the route I think TFC want to take moving forward long term. I think they want to go the 2 DP route and then 3 under 22 initiative signing routes. And I think that is the best way to actually build out a roster.
Agreed.
In modern day MLS, you see some of the other teams around the league. That's the best way that they're kind of taking advantage of this new quote unquote new salary cap era. So I guess we'll just see how exactly he fits in and what sort of playing time he's going to get on this team, because it's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. And look, I think that, the conspiracy theories abound in terms of, what is happening with Michael Bradley. Will he actually play again for TFC? Is this a move to kind of cover that? The other thing you have to consider is that there are some new judges of talent in decision-making positions, right? Like, obviously Jason Hernandez was the assistant GM, so obviously had a hand in bringing some of those players in, but also, from a talent perspective, like, Terry's going to have a little bit of a say here as the interim manager. So maybe the way that Bob looked at certain midfielders may be different from the way Jason looks at them. He may look at them and say, you know what, actually, that guy doesn't actually fit the position that we've been trying to play them in this season. Maybe we do need another holding midfielder because I think this player is better here. Or maybe it's a situation where they just don't think that player fits what they're looking to do long term, right? Either
or maybe
way,
they're trying to play a double pivot now, right? And try and go with 2 6s on the pitch, and maybe that's the best way forward. Maybe that's what they're seeing. I think, aside from us trying to reason and assess, trying to think about this logically, it doesn't really make the most sense.
No.
Right? It doesn't.
0%.
But I mean,
sense.
I also think it's going to be hard for them right now to bring in the striker that everybody wants, right? Like if the budgets are what the budgets are, and obviously they can't bring in a DP now. They weren't going to bring a DP even if they had kept the spot. Like I don't think it was going to happen anyway.
Right. And I think it is important for us also to acknowledge like the salary cap hit that comes with signing a U22 initiative player. Obviously, that's 200,000 on the cap, no matter what he's making. So for a team that like we've talked about all year doesn't have much cap space, then it makes sense to go out and get a cheap option for essentially nothing, just because Atlanta messed up on their U22 initiative signing. So it's, I guess, in a way you can look at it as a free addition for the last 6 months, even if it isn't at the position I think most people think we need to shore up.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure we said we're opening up the Michael Singh notebook, so everybody's expecting rumor bombs dropping here, there, everywhere. Look, guys, I don't know about you, Mike. I don't think there's a lot out there right now in sort of the speculation world. Unless you can shed some light on that. But I just don't. I don't even know where you could even begin for moves with this club outside of maybe interleague trades or things like that, right? Like the cap is such a way, and the budget is such a way that I just they're going to have to get creative if they're making some moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the things I spoke about already last week is the Richie Larea situation, and we'll see exactly how it ultimately unfolds. It's trending in a way where who knows what the final result is going to be, but the longer that it goes on, obviously you have to assume that Richie's going to weigh different options than maybe we would have thought. And I do believe that if Richie doesn't come back, it does free up some salary cap space for this team. And then for them to go out and address, I think, the one need that we all know that needs to be addressed. I think that's the obvious answer here.
But is that interleague? Like realistically, in terms of what would be available and what moves, is that a striker from within MLS, or can they go?
God, how many failed MLS strikers are we going to have on our roster? How many 33-year-old dead weights are we going to have on this roster? I mean, don't we have enough? It's like half of our players are pylons in the number 9 position.
The one thing we have to acknowledge is that they also don't have any international roster slots available. It doesn't cost a lot to go out and get one for the second half of the season, maybe 100,000 allocation money. But again, allocation money isn't exactly.
Yeah, we spent that on Ibarra. We spent our 50 on Mr. Awesome. I don't understand it. I think it's maybe the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life, and the cognitive dissonance that I've experienced on the internet today of people trying to convince me, don't, this isn't crazy. It's the best move ever. The fact that they're auditioning a spot with a player that doesn't want to be here suggests that they don't understand that all defensive midfielders aren't created equal. Say we really like what he brings, well, then we're in a position where we now have to find a guy that has the exact same skill set as Ibarra that isn't Ibarra. It's so it's tragicomically stupid. It's so stupid. I can't. It's so unbelievably dumb that I feel stupider as a consequence of listening to it. Like, I cannot parse out how this makes sense. It's another bit of shiny. Somebody said, well, MLS is going to look kindly on TFC for helping Atlanta out. Who the hell cares? This league will bend over backward for Inter Miami to sign everybody from Barcelona 2006. It doesn't matter. We don't need brownie points with MLSE. You know what we need with MLSE to get what we want? Money. The money that we just spent on this joker that's coming in for 12 weeks. The Emperor has no clothes, man. They really do. The Emperor has no clothes. I cannot condone this move. It sucks. It sucks in a way that so profoundly sucks that all other moves that precede it look good by comparison. And I'm done. Let's bring Aaron.
You know what's going to happen now? He's going
to
end up being our best player.
Favorite player.
He's going to be just by like the end of September. You are going to love
you boys know that as much as I love ranting, I love eating humble pie. Bring it. I challenge this kid to do it.
Look, here's the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Before we bring Eric on, because he is in the room, so we'll bring him on in a moment. But the thing is, he is coming from Atlanta. He's a little upset, right? And look, like I said off the top, I get it, right? You were in a place, you bought a home, your family's settled there. and then they spring this on you. And like, it's different when you get traded and you're going to get traded, right? When the club say to you, look, we're looking for a solution to you moving. Are you okay with this? Yes. Okay. You mentally prepare for that. He basically got told one day to not come to training. Like, he's getting ready to go to training. No idea this is happening. And then they say, don't come to training. And when he does come to train, they lock the doors and they tell him he can't.
Yeah, they tell him you're a TFC player now.
Listen, so I'd be a little upset too. Now, the thing is, look, he comes in, maybe he comes in with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove to Atlanta, comes out, balls out for a couple of weeks, and he goes back to Atlanta, and either they sell him or whatever. Let's see. I will give him a shot, right? Because, frankly, we just need quality, even if it's not necessarily in the position that we most desperately need. Jeff, go ahead, and then we'll bring in Eric.
100%. I want to be clear. I don't fault him for making those comments. I maybe fault The Athletic for publishing those comments because they're a little bit
he knew they were going public. He did that interview for him.
And that's what I fault him for. That's what I fault him for. Like, it may be a problem with how we recruit players that this happens all the time. I didn't understand this about North American sports. Well, you are signing a deal for like most of your life, morning, noon, and night for how many other years. Maybe instead of looking for the Instagram post, read the contract you're about to sign. Like it does miff me a little bit that that's an excuse still, when this league is now multiple decades old. I didn't think it was going to work that way. Well, do your due diligence. I mean, at the end of the day, here's the world's smallest violin singing you a concerto about how oppressed you are, because that's how sports work in this country, that you signed a deal in good faith on. So I don't really have a lot of time for this. I understand he's 21 years old, et cetera, wrong place, wrong time, trusting the wrong people. But at the end of the day, you do have to be accountable, for your own BS. And I think there's just as much chance of him hitting here as there is in him joining the secret We Hate Everything TFC club with our 2 DPs and just vaping away the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens. But I hope I'm wrong, man.
All right, let's put a pin in this because it sort of comes back up in the burning question. So we'll get back to some transfer stuff and the impending loan, well, not impending now, official loan of Franco Ibarra. But let's bring in a friend of the show, somebody we really like, and we just want to give him his flowers before he takes off on us. Let's welcome in Eric Giacometti, former social media manager at Toronto FC. We're just going to bring him in a second here. There he is. There's the man himself. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Is it dusty in here? Oh, my goodness.
Welcome to the Vibes FC podcast. Holy moly, you guys are bringing good vibes, eh?
Yeah, we're trying.
We're trying.
We got it out of the way
and
early.
Failing.
Yeah, we got it out of the way early. Yeah. Like at a certain point, you just gotta you're gonna have to. At some point, we just realized, and then let's bring in some vibes here and bring a good time. So look, like the reason Eric wanted to invite you on the show is, look, you deserve your flowers from us, from the fan base, I think, even though people gave you stick about the lineup thing. But like in the end of the day, like I think just, and Mike kind of touched on it at the beginning of the show when we said you were going to be on, is this idea that you've done a really great job of keeping fans connected to the club through social media and the work that you've done. So like we have some questions for you just in terms of the role and what does that really mean in terms of how you keep fans like us connected to the club. But the biggest thing I really wanted to ask you is just, obviously you came from New York Red Bulls. People didn't know you were with the Red Bulls before TFC. What were your like first impressions of Toronto when this sort of opportunity came up? Because you were coming in just as, the wave was happening, or just about as the wave was going to sort of crest. So what were your thoughts originally?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, but just first off the top, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate the kind words. I was overwhelmed at BMO on Saturday that a lot of people stopped me to say hello and thank me. It was kind of made me feel a little sheepish, like I'm just the guy behind the keys, and there's a lot of people that do a lot of great work behind the scenes to kind of put together the content that you guys see on a day-to-day basis. But no, it's been an honor to be a part of that community. So, and what you guys do as well to kind of foster this community and bring people together to stay informed, I think is tremendous. So, so thank you for having me on. But yeah, in terms of Toronto, it's an interesting one because I had, I was doing long distance with my now wife for a couple of years, coming back and forth between New York and Toronto. So, ironically enough, my first ever game at BMO was the game there. Seba came off the bench at halftime, and he just played in a qualifier for Italy.
Oh my God!
clinched the playoffs for the first time the same day as the Joey bat flip. So like crazy time in Toronto sports. And I just remember saying, like, if I could get to BMO, if this could be an everyday thing for me, like, wouldn't that be incredible? But such a pie in the sky kind of ideas. Someone from New York, I had no way of getting here, and lo and behold, it all kind of worked out. But no, I just remember being so impressed by the atmosphere and how people really cared about TFC. It was just kind of, you mentioned that, Mike, just kind of hitting that fever pitch. The first time in the playoffs, Seba was just having a monster year, and it only got bigger and bigger in the years to come. And I remember just even walking around the streets of Toronto, like you'd see people with TFC gear on, like wearing hats and scarves and shirts. And like, again, you mentioned I came from the Red Bulls, like, and no disrespect, but like you lived in New York my whole life. It was like you kind of like seeing like a unicorn in the wild. You see someone with the Red Bulls, oh, you're one of us, an MLS fan.
Yeah.
So that's what really caught my eye about Toronto, is that it was kind of just burgeoning as like the soccer crazy hub. And it was something I wanted to be a part of, and I'm really, really lucky that for the last 7 years I was able to do that.
Unbelievable. Your first game was that goal.
Pretty
Star-crossed
expectations for the rest of my time there. Yeah.
Man, like for us longtime TSC fans who had to see all this Drek before that, you lucky.
Always remember the first game. We'll never talk about the last game. Eric, any question I want to ask you is going to break your NDA. So let me just give me like 5 minutes, to thank you, because honestly, like, you didn't have to put up with, dicks like me as long as and you did it with style and grace and panache. It hasn't been easy. COVID hit the MLS teams really, really hard, and you kept us in touch with the Reds that we love. And we're going to miss you, man. We're going to miss you a lot. So, what are my bullshit questions? Oh, what's the thing you're going to miss the most about Toronto?
Wow. Well, first of all, again, thank you. And let me just say this as well. 7 years is, it's a long time to be doing any one thing. And, I think it's as good as any time for someone else to kind of take the keys and run with it in their own vision. But I always said that if I was going to get into a position like this, that I would remember what it was like just to be a diehard fan. Because it's the reason I'm in this in the first place, right? It's like I was that guy that I was just hungry for any kind of information, any kind of discourse that was out there. And I always said that I'd never forget what that was like as a fan. And I would try to, if I had the position to do so, kind of give back to that community and hand up. God knows I didn't always get it right. I didn't always, engage in the best ways, but it came from a place of really wanting to bring the community closer. Sometimes it got me into hot water within those walls. And, again, I wasn't, maybe I didn't always get it right, but it was from a place of really just trying to, bring fans closer, especially during those COVID years when everything was so, behind closed doors, and we were living in Hartford and we were living in Orlando. And, those were some really personally really tough times, right? Living out of a suitcase,
Sure.
with families back here in Toronto, getting tested every day. Like, I can't even tell you how many swabs I've had over the years, but it honestly, like, it's been just the most incredible ride. But to come back to your question, the thing I'm going to miss most about Toronto, that's tough. Certainly not the streetcars of the TTC. I'm definitely not.
Wow.
No disrespect, man.
You are
Preach.
just best friend. You are literally just best friend now. You are.
The new streetcars make no sense. They make about as much sense as this Ibarra deal. Like, we got rid of standing room only for like Boeing airplanes.
Listen,
like
I've been
one
sitting here
little
waiting for
transverse row.
The Eglinton Crosstown has been promised to me for so goddamn long, and here I sit and look at construction every single day. It will have come. I will have come and gone to Canada without this damn thing being done. So.
It's not going to be built in our lifetimes. I hope you realize that. Like, and Queen Street West, it was nice to know you. Queen and Young between the day, it was nice to know you. Our children's children will still be looking at that eyesore, waiting for the 501 to go
probably
all the way through and paying for it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, but in all seriousness, like there's so much about Toronto that I'm going to miss. Like, this is, I consider this home now. Like, I never would have imagined that 10 years ago, but like, Toronto is where I've had a lot of life milestones. And yeah, it means an awful lot to me. I'm going to miss the people. Like I already miss going to the training ground and, seeing all the coworkers that I call friends. And, just being in and around the city is such an incredible, especially now in the summer. Like you kind of toil through the crappy winter months that seems to last for 8 months. But no, I'm really going to miss this place. I'm here for another couple months, luckily. So I'll be able to kind of soak it up without the constraints of the TFC schedule. But yeah, Toronto's a special place. I'm going to tell you guys that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, man, I don't have anything nice to say about Eric, but let me just no, I'm just kidding.
This became a roast.
Yeah, let me just shout out the rest of the show's media team that's going to be picking up some of the slack and the void that's going to be left by Eric. Obviously, shout out Brooklyn, shout out Andy, Eric. Anyone else in particular you want to give some love to?
Yeah, today I learned that her name is Brooklyn. That's only ever been Brooklyn.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Brooke, because if you say Brooklyn, she feels like she's getting yelled at. So
I was yelling
at her very early on before I submitted her credentials. But no, I mean Erica Dreyer, Matt Tierney, Danny Patterson, Gabriella Cook. I'm gonna if I keep going down the list, I'm gonna forget somebody. But that's the point I wanted to make, is that there are a lot of people that come together to bring our content to life. And I was obviously very front facing. Some people like to stay more in the shadows, and fair enough. It's not getting hounded by fans isn't for everyone, and sometimes I wish I was a little more anonymous. But no, it's it really does. It takes a lot of people to bring it all to life, and I have every faith that that those guys are going to continue to kill it in my absence. And for me, I'm just going to continue to watch from afar as a fan, and keep pulling for 3 points at BMO. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome, man. One thing I really want to ask, and I know, Mike, you have some more things to ask, but I really wanted to ask this one.
Oh, I'm right out of the equation now. I just don't get.
Well, no, I know. I know you guys have to ask it, so I'm just saying, because Mike didn't write it down, but that's okay. And I just blew up his spot. But you going the Lorenzo signing, just in terms of like, look, we're not going to go into the whole whether you think not, doesn't matter. You got to film some really, really neat content. Both here and obviously in Naples itself. What was that like? Especially having to try to keep a lot of that under wraps for a long period of time.
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, other than winning the treble my first year, which got me very, very spoiled, like I'd say that that process has probably got to be the high point of my time at TFC, just because it was such a big undertaking. And again, it was kind of pie in the sky. Like when you first get news of this incredible signing, I just pitched like, hey, like if we're gonna be shelling out this much money for this guy, like why don't we really go for it? Like let's really go all out. And like what if we made a documentary on this guy and kind of explain who is Lorenzo Insigne to the average fan in Toronto that maybe is kind of familiar with world football but not necessarily that plugged in. So that was really just the impetus behind the pitch. And luckily they kind of put their faith in me, the powers that be put their faith in me to run with it. And it was such an incredible experience. I mean, I got to go to Italy twice to, meet with Lorenzo, kind of get a vibe for what Napoli is like. What does he mean to that community? What is he going to bring to Toronto? I just truthfully, one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I learned a ton. A production of that scale was kind of not in my wheelhouse. It was something I was dealing with for the first time. And luckily, again, I had an incredible crew around me, producers, shooters that, made the job so much fun. And I mean, I hope it resonated. I hope it ended up, bringing people closer to the club. I mean, seeing that air on TSN was kind of a big pinch me moment. Like, wow, this is really happening. So definitely a highlight of my time at the club for sure.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful work. Like even just like you saying, like the shooters you brought out there, like the pictures the stills that were from it were incredible, right? Like obviously at the wall with Maradona, like that was nuts. That was like, it's obviously an iconic thing a lot of people in football know about and seen pictures of it, but like to see like TFC involved in that space was really neat to see.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. Like even like going there and you know Maradona's a god there, right? Like, but to see it, like you literally cannot walk 15 feet without some kind of iconography, some shop with his picture in the window or selling a little figurine. Like it is beyond comprehension that this guy is just like literally next to the Pope. Like it's something I can't even explain.
Yeah.
Okay, so a follow-up is how many Maradona tchotchkes did you bring home with you, and are they all over your house?
Funny enough, there's these little shops that kind of paint these little figurines. We went into like basically every single one that we could find and bought everybody out of their stock of Lorenzo Insigne figurines, and like that was our gift to
Amazing.
staff back home. So we basically cleared the house of Lorenzo Insigne 24. No.
Yeah, it's not like you can bring back proper Neapolitan pizza. That's not happening. So
doesn't travel well.
So yeah. Okay, so here's my two questions. One, do we get to find out what your burner account was now, or do we have to guess?
Hand to God, I can honestly say never once. Like, you'll catch me on Maine saying some stupid shit as it is. You don't need.
Yeah. Nah, I don't believe you. And two, I think I might have asked you this the first time you were on, but I don't remember. And my other questions were from Airplane, like, do you like movies about gladiators? So, favorite kit, TFC kit of all time.
Of all time, or my time with the club?
Let's do both.
Oof, that's tough. I mean,
this year's?
I'm so very polarized.
Careful.
And if you want a little bit of the peek behind the curtain, I'll give you this little morsel. I mean, I wasn't involved in the creation of the kit, obviously, at all whatsoever. You know, my flag was like, is it red enough? Like, how are we going to market this? We're called the Reds. But I will say, I think when it came together on the pitch, it looked a lot better than the render, which obviously the first leak that came out, which leaks
was
every
the
year,
kids kit in a byway. It was
Vaughn. Like, of course it's gonna look like shit. Like, you have to wait for the full ensemble. Like, and especially in those winter months when the guys are wearing like the full red underarms and like the whole ensemble. Like, I think it looks super sharp. I mean, I'm very partial to the 2017 kit. I think just it's associated with such great memories. Like, it's a treble winning kit. It's got the clean red with the onyx shoulders.
So
like, it's
slick.
a nice little star in 2018. Like, it just brings back such incredible memories. So I think, like, for me, that's the one that just will last long. When I think of TFC, like, that's the kit that I think of.
Awesome.
I think that's fair. What's these past couple of years been like, Eric? Obviously, well, you touched on the Insigne stuff, but then the club not reaching the heights that obviously we expect as fans, as people who cover the team, as the team itself expects. What's it been like for you having to endure some of the, let's just call it, impatience from fans? Yeah,
listen, and I've always taken that with a grain of salt. Like, I am not one to take it personally when fans are impatient and venting. Like, truthfully, from a metrics perspective, I'd rather you be yelling underneath our full-time graphic than anything else, right? Like, have the conversation, like, vent out your frustrations. I get it. It's been a roller coaster. Like, I got very spoiled coming in a treble year. Like, I kind of just jumped onto a rocket ship and off we went. And it was like, hey, times are always going to be this good, right? Wrong. But I think it kind of it helped me put into perspective, like, as I look back over these 7 years of like what it took to be at that level. I don't think 2017 happens if we don't lose out on penalties in 2016. Like,
100%.
100%. I had been around locker rooms enough at that point to kind of know that there was something special there. Like, there was just such a motivated group. Like, the way that they just attacked training every day. Like, it was just such a complete unit. Like, you looked at the construction of like MLS veterans throughout the team. You had your Beta Shores, your Moros, and then you had your obviously Seba and a TAM player in Victor who was playing out of his mind. Like, you had this entire construction of a roster that was so complete, and the depth of that team, like, I could go on for hours, but that team was super special. And then 2018 looked to be shaping up to be another special year, and we put all of our baskets into the CONCACAF Champions League run, and God damn it, we were so damn close. Like, that's
so close.
That's probably like the worst feeling I think I've ever had.
I was about to ask about that night in Guadalajara. I was going to ask about Guadalajara. I didn't want to dredge it up, but I wanted to ask about Guadalajara.
It's inevitable, man. Like, that's honestly, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but that run is like up there as one of the highest of highs as well. I mean, just going down to those hostile environments. Like, look at the gamble we went through. Like, playing Colorado, people forget, like, the coldest game ever recorded. Yeah. Like, crazy game. We ended up getting a 2-0 win there. Then you got to go and play Tigres, like the best team in North America.
At elbow.
You got to go to the Azteca, play Club America, and then you got to play Chivas, like, and again, like, legendary club of Mexican football. So that gamut, like, if we could have just finished it off, like, it would have just cemented the legacy of that team and what they were able to do. But God, they threw everything into that, like the injuries. Like, if people forget, like, we had Greg Vanderweel and Michael Bradley as a center back pairing at the starting that game. So it was just, I think the guys had just run out of gas for everything they put into it. And God, tweeting out that final score graphic, it's a kind of an open air press box, and you're just in the stands, and I'm literally like, I can't even hit send because I'm just covered in beer from fans celebrating. I'm like,
right.
Beers, like, just fucking end my pain. Yeah, that was a tough one to finish off.
But can I ask, because one of the most iconic, like, obviously everybody talks about the Josie goal in the final, and that's obviously an iconic moment. To me, one of the most iconic moments in club history is Seba's free kick and El Volcan to essentially settle the tie, right? And in that picture of Jonathan Osorio, like, that is one of the greatest moments. Like, what were your vibes like? Were you on 10 on that? Because you must have been.
Yeah, I mean, being there. First of all, that atmosphere, like, holy crap, like, that is an atmosphere. Like, you get into the stadium, and like, I felt like a pit in my stomach. I'm intimidated. Like, this is like a hostile environment. Like, I went out there before the players, and like, I'm getting booed like crazy. Like, it's a crazy environment to be in. But like, music, 90 minutes chanting, like, nonstop. And when he, like, listen, Seba on his day, like, he literally could just win you games, and he just said, like, we're not losing today. I remember talking to Josie after the game. He's like, that's what he told. He's like, we're not losing today. It's like, okay, sure, let's do this thing. Like, him putting that in there, I was sitting up in, like, we had our own, they didn't want us in the press box with everyone, so it was like kind of TFC staff, and I was sitting next to Bez, and like, we just lost our minds. Like, did that.
Amazing.
One of the most amazing goals. Like, that to me is up there with one of my favorite TFC goals outside of a cup final, but also his goal against Montreal Canadian Championship. Raheem Edwards squares
ridiculous.
Yes, like, MLS Cup was an amazing night, and I won't take anything away from that, but that stadium was so full. The rivalry was still just, like, really bubbling up from what had just happened in 2016. I think Bernier got sent off in that game. Like, there was heated competition, and then, like, at the end, to just win it at the death in front, like, I can still hear the roar of the South End, and like, everybody running over to the South End. Like, there's some incredible photos of guys just losing their
goosebumps.
I'm getting goosebumps now, because like, the unity of that club, and the way that the connection with the fans, and I'll still say this, and call me a homer, like, BMO on its day, there's nothing like it. Like, it makes me emotional talking about it, because it's just such an incredible place to be, and I think it's what kept me coming back to the club for as long as I have. Like, I loved being around that environment, and those are the moments that, like, I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And that goal in particular, it sits with me as like a holy shit moment. Like, this club is something special.
You're doing it again, man. You're making us love TFC unconditionally.
I'm a romantic.
You're so good at this.
Well, that's football. That's how football should be, right? Yeah. Football should be a bit romantic in terms of your fandom, right? Like, and it is for me. Like, that's why, I go on a rant. It's not just to do it. It's because I do care, right? Like,
I get it. And like, and if I can just interject, like, I know some people were having to go at you, like, to call you a plastic fan obviously is a joke. Like, I understand, like, people are going to have their opinions, and people are going to get heated, and again, I would expect that. It's a tough time for the club. People have their own opinions of what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. But the last thing you can do is question the commitment of this crew, for sure. I mean, clearly there's a passionate fan base out there that wants the best for this club, and we might disagree on how we best go forward, but it all comes from a place of just wanting to see this club get back to where we know it can be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it's funny you talk about that goal that night. I think I might have steamrolled you a little bit, because I was running into that dog pile from 116. It was a great night. Shem almost threw me out, but that's okay. But anyway, look, Eric, I don't know if you guys have any other questions. But
I'm going to start crying soon. I'm just barely holding.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to hang on here. Not all misty-eyed and stuff. Mike, you got anything for us?
I'd love to give Eric just a platform. Final thoughts for you, parting words to TFC fans. I know that you've already sent out a tweet, but tweets, as we know.
Let me preface: you can come back whenever you want. This isn't like goodbye forever.
No,
you have the conch.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's truthfully, it's been emotional, and you dunk on me if you want. I mean, this club just means a lot to me, and it's really, really bittersweet to be leaving. Like, it's a good opportunity, and I'll in due time I'll divulge what my next steps are, and but I am heading back to New York at the end of the summer. But no, it's been an incredible ride. Like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. This club, this city mean the world to me, and it's I didn't know what I was expecting coming to Toronto. I didn't really know a ton of people. It was just really my wife and I, and we said, we'll figure it out, and we have, and then some. Toronto's a really special place. Like it's a special place that I'm going to hold in my heart for the rest of my life. It only ended up being about 6.5, 7 years, but this is a place that hopefully I'll continue to come back to. I'll hopefully get back to BMO as a fan and just sit back and enjoy a game for once and not have to worry about executing a run of show.
Beers are on me, buddy. Beers are well, as long as you don't go Lux and Deluxe, because I'm not generationally wealthy, but one beer is on me.
Keep my ID card. That still keeps me my 30% off.
Nice.
No, genuinely, thank you. First of all, thank you guys again for having me on. It's great that we can kind of debrief after a good run. But yeah, I would just say, just stick with this club. I know times are tough right now, and I get that it's not where any of us want it to be. Again, within those walls, there's a lot of frustration, but there's also a lot of really good people that want the best for this club, that are pushing to do the best for this club. And it's not always easy. We don't have all the answers. I'm just the social guy. I'm a very, very small piece in the cog of the machine. So, but listen, at the end of the day, we all want what's best for this club, and I know they're going to get it right, and then it's going to be all that much sweeter when we're back on top.
Well said.
Praise be.
Well
all
said.
Right.
Praise be. You testify, and please tell your successor that I'm not meaning to be nice to me.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, you're gonna have to give them a dictionary.
No lineup tweets. No lineup tweets.
Yeah. No more lineup tweets. You don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with that shit anymore.
I'm so old, and now the lineup tweet goes right to Apple TV, and when I try to zoom the picture, it's a
and
disaster.
I know you all hate it, and that's why I doubled down on it.
Yes.
Bitch that I am.
Talk that shit. Talk that shit before you go. All right.
Exactly.
Eric Giacometti, everybody, thank you again so much.
Take a bow, buddy.
To the club. Obviously, good luck in your next steps. We'll be talking with you anyway over the next bit, so don't worry about that. But as Jeff said, welcome anytime on the show. Obviously, wherever you end up landing,
especially when your NDA expires.
Yeah, so we're gonna to tell all book.
That's when I get to reveal the state secrets, right?
Yep. You know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry. Yeah, you don't want that MLSE NDA on you, man. All right, buddy. Thanks so much for the time. Thanks for coming out.
Cheers, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Genuinely. Cheers. Bye-bye.
That was Eric Giacometti, now former social media manager of TFC. And look, it was good to have the good vibes because, look,
it was so good.
Yeah, because you do remember that when he joined the club, as he said, his first game was one of the most remarkable sort of landmark moments in the club's history. Right, there was a time where it was really dark before that, and to just remember that. When that moment happened, how much of that lifted off people's shoulders, off my shoulders. I remember that night. I was there. So, from that perspective, it is good to remind ourselves, even somebody who's been around for a long time, right? That good days do come back. And when they do, it makes it worth it to stick around through all the crap.
Mm-hmm. Look at Cincy. They were hopeless. Now they're supporter shield leaders. One of the beauties of the beautiful game, especially as espoused by MLS's quest for parity, whatever that means, is that this sort of stuff can happen all the time. So it's not over until the fat lady sings. And in this allegory, I think the fat lady is Don Garber. I don't know. Help me up, guys.
No more fat ladies. Okay, nobody's singing.
Yeah.
No one's singing. All right, guys.
2017, 2018 talk really got to you guys, eh?
Well, I mean, look. Yeah, obviously, yeah. But I mean, to me, in the Champions League run, that Champions League run actually, to me, is almost
magic,
as magical, if not more magical, than the run to the Cup. Right? I think, like he said, the gauntlet that they had to go through. Yeah, right. Colorado was probably the easiest push of the four, but. I mean, then you have to go to Tigres, who were at that time arguably the best team in North America. Then you got to go to Club America and go play them and the Azteca, and then go down there and get the result you need to get. And literally, if Alex Bono stays on his line, maybe, right? Maybe.
Or Markey buries that sitter.
Yeah, I've forgiven Markey. That was when you look back at it, it actually was a pretty tough chance to take.
Jeff's boy, Markey.
Best friends.
Chess boy Marky. Mark, by the way, he's now.
I was waiting for you two to jump on that one.
Yeah. But like you maybe, if just a couple of things go right in that final, you win a quad, right? And you're the team that goes to the Club World Cup, and I stay sometimes. I think about it, and it keeps you awake at night at odd moments. But
100%.
It's good to remember those times because again, like I said, if they can get this right, if they can figure out what the next step is, whether you agree it's getting rid of Bill Manning or going or keeping him, and he's got to go a different direction, whatever that looks like, there's an opportunity to get back. It just won't be this season.
Yep.
It might be a little.
Yeah,
while.
It just won't be this season.
All right, let's jump into the burning question and round this thing off, guys.
Yeah.
All right, the burning question presented by Nextdoor, the neighborhood network and official community app of Toronto FC. Nearly 1 in 5 GTA households use Nextdoor to connect with neighbors, local businesses, and groups nearby. Like Nextdoor's Toronto FC fan group, where you can find our burning question posted each week the day before we post it on our socials. So download Nextdoor on Google Play or at nextdoor.ca. And our burning question this week, with the summer transfer window open, what position should TFC look to upgrade? We talked about the transfer window a little earlier in the show. Obviously, we talked about Franco Ibarra coming in. A couple of comments here from the TTID community. John on the Nextdoor group just says, hard question, should start with defending. Can't depend on the Italians all the time. You got to look for another goalkeeper to help. Now, that might have been in the context of looking at how Greg Ranjitsingh went over his time as the starter. We're going to get one back pretty soon once the Americans win the Gold Cup, because that's most likely happening.
And I thought Romero looked pretty good out there, just to interject.
Yeah, I thought
I know they're talking about it in the chat. Yeah.
And now that the positives have, we talked a little bit about the positives of Saturday. And look, yes, it's another loss. But I thought he was pretty solid as the goalkeeper. And I think his time also with El Salvador kind of helps with that as well, because he got some games in before. Andre on Twitter just says striker number 1, attacking midfielder number 2, and team president number 3. There is a common theme here that is coming. Lee just says striker, except there's no money. Given that, I think progress would be achieved by declaring Manning's big splash unlikely to succeed and parting ways with him and both DPs who don't look like they're able to be productive leaders that management might have envisioned they would be. So, Jeff, this is down your line as well. And Nathan, rounding it off on Twitter as well, says, I don't think we should be signing any new players right now. It only makes our wage bill that much harder to navigate next season. I think the playoffs this season are a tough ask. We should be trying to focus on getting things straightened out in management first. So, gentlemen, we were kind of on this track before Eric came on. But in terms of, where did this window go? What are your thoughts, Jeff? You're chomping at the bit to go.
I agree with the Lees and the Nathans of the world, but we still got how many games? 11, 12, 13 MLS games plus Leagues Cup to play.
12.
So, so spending nothing, I don't, because the fact of the matter is that we were lamenting putting the kids out there in throwing them into the lion's den with no hope of winning last season. So it's a little disingenuous, regardless, the context has changed, for us to be suggesting doing the same this season, because, we can't forfeit the season as much as we'd like to. So we do have to field the team for, Leagues Cup, whatever. It's maybe 2 games and done, but we've still got those MLS games to consider. I can't believe I haven't come to this yet, because I'm screaming it from the mountaintops all over in my WTR column and on Twitter today. I know it's not feasible, but damn, do I want TFC to sign that name brand number 9, just to quiet everybody that says that that's the missing piece that will unlock this team's potential. Because I don't believe it for a second, but I think doing it and realizing that it's not going to work will finally unify this fan base behind the idea that there is no saving this. Because it's only my opinion, and it may be wrong, but I honestly think it needs to happen. And I realize that there is no number 9 that's going to satisfy everybody, so it's already a fool's errand. But just for shiggles, let's sign a number 9. let's sign Erling Haaland's brother, who I hear is good, or like seriously, because I'm getting so tired of the coulda, shoulda, woulda. If only we had this, then Insigne and Bernardeschi would be amazing. If only this, then that. If only this, then this, and blah 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 blah. I just want the madness to stop. So, to me, yeah, sign that number 9. At the very least, when we do a fire sale for every other player, we can build around this number 9.
Yeah. I actually think signing a number 9 would definitely help this group. I also don't think we've seen really what this team is, if that makes sense. Like this last month and a half has been a shell of what this team is supposed to be, just because of the amount of bodies and the amount of names that are missing. So that's a problem in itself. Like you need to find a way to get guys just available. If that means you're not signing the right guys, maybe that's the answer. If that means you need to sign younger players, maybe that's the answer. But regardless, that needs to be priority number 1, is ensuring that the guys that you do end up paying money for, you guys you do end up signing, are guys who are actually going to be available for this team. So I actually, Jeff, like, call me great, but like sign a number 9 and get all of a sudden start getting bodies back. And I do think this team is actually a lot closer than maybe it feels like right now, just because of what this group has kind of endured this I guess season as a whole. But it's been a lot of factors going against them. That said, I think right now, I think that their objective this summer window I'm not saying this is what they will do, but their objective this summer window should be creating assets for this team. Mm-hmm. And then I said it 2 shows ago.
Begging a Saudi Arabian club to take a chance on Lorenzo and Insigne would be my word.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe there is a world in which next season, based on what they've seen this year, that they can find ways to get more production out of the Italians. Maybe the rest of the year they can find ways to get more production out of the Italians. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they signed Franco Ibarra, was just to see how that type of profile will fit alongside guys with the Italians. Maybe that's what they need to sort of start to unlock them. But I think they're the best route forward for this team is trading guys away for, quite frankly, just cap space next season.
Yeah,
just cap space, assets to kind of rebuild this roster. If you look at their roster, there's not a ton of expiring contracts. There's not a ton of money coming off the books. So it's not like all of a sudden the winter comes and this team's in a really great position to do some of the things that they couldn't do this summer. No, like they're still in a pretty tight salary cap position, just because of the term that they signed some of these deals to. And the last thing, obviously, the biggest priority for this team before they can do any of that is they got to appoint their next head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, love Terry, and I honestly wouldn't be pissed if he got the job, even though the results haven't been great with this team, because I know that the team actually backs him, and I know the team really does want to play for Terry. But I don't know if Terry's going to be the solution as the next head coach of Toronto FC. So I think they need to figure out exactly who that is. And they are
Eric Giacometti.
Yeah, maybe that's why he's leaving. No, I think they are getting closer to the end of that process. As Bill Manning kind of laid out a few weeks back, Terry was going to get 4 games. He's gotten 3 games. So after this game, the hope is that TFC have come close to finalizing that decision in terms of who their next head coach will be, because that obviously plays a huge role in kind of what the club does moving forward this transfer window.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's an internal MLS hire again, right? A little easier to sort of think about the guys who don't have jobs. Somebody floated Caleb Porter to me this weekend.
No, thank you.
I kind of agree with you, Jeff, but not out of the realm of possibility, right?
If the DPs didn't respect Bob Bradley, who's coached internationally and has been but say what you will about his successes or failures, but as coached in Europe, they're gonna listen to Caleb Porter. I don't see it happening.
But then who are they gonna listen to, Jeff?
that your guess is as good as mine.
Well,
That's
I
why
mean,
I think you hire Berna's dad to be the next coach if you're insisting on.
Yeah, but if you think about it, right, like all the people that have gone out and said, "Oh, you need to get a big European coach that they'll respect." Well, the guys you wanted, like Andrea Pirlo, gone.
Yeah,
well,
they're gone, and we can't afford them.
They're already booked, right? Like even the Patrick Vieira got floated again, but he's now gone. Right. Mm-hmm. So, even somebody floated Cesc Fabregas. I think you did, Jeff. Like Cesc Fabregas is going to coach Como's U16s and be their assistant sort of senior academy coach. Like the guys that you think you'd want sort of high profile managers, they're not available. Mm-hmm. And they're not coming to TFC right now. So I really do think that it's going to be somebody that's a little bit more, like you said, Mike, last week, a little bit maybe not under the radar, but necessarily not exactly a sexy name that everybody kind of knows offhand, if that makes sense.
Start looking at some really good assistants.
Yeah, that's what Danny is saying in the chat. Please don't be Marc Dos Santos.
Advice.
Please don't be Marc Dos Santos. If I can ask the soccer gods one gift for one, please don't be Marc Dos Santos. Anyway, yeah.
All right, so we're going to be looking at all the assistant coaches in MLS and trying to parse out who's the next one to be a head coach. Everybody start your research. And I'll leave on this, Mike, Luca on Twitter agrees with you, right? Like obviously striker, I think he thinks it's the biggest priority, but he also thinks they need to sell more than they sign. And we're
going to get rinsed on these sales.
Well,
we're not making money on these sales.
That's what whether it's now or in the winter, you're getting rinsed anyway, right?
You're getting
there's
rinsed.
A lot of guys you can't move off of. Like Ayo Akinola, I don't know has any trade value outside of his that he's kind of on young money and maybe it's a cheap flyer. That
I don't think that matters.
I agree with you, but
it is MLS. I could see it happening. Yeah, I could see it happening.
You'll get very little back in terms of you'll get some allocation money, but sorry, Mike.
It's if that like you're not going to get allocation money, you're going to get like the league minimum for Ayo, and you're probably going to have to eat the majority of his salary.
Yeah.
This is even right now, Ayo Akinola at 200,000 is still not exactly an asset.
Right, but even then, even if you can get that off the books in terms of the actual cap hit,
that's where we have to be looking.
Season, that's the win, right? That's the win. It's not necessarily getting Gam.
We have the space for another body. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's where you kind of go, and this is where I think.
But it's 200,000. It's like again barely anything. But yes,
but you're going to need it all. Right?
But are they? Is the board going to eat 700,000 a season in order to get a 200,000 cap?
But you're not paying all in 7. If you send him somewhere else, you're not paying all of it. You'll pay some, but you're not paying 100% of his salary to go somewhere else.
Again, we're speaking in fantasy because
you may have to pay 70 or 60%.
I think the reality is that no one takes him, and if we want to be rid of him, we have to start thinking about the massive losses that we're going to have to incur. And Akinola is not, unfortunately, he's just one on a very long list. No one's going for Adama Diomande.
That's
another one.
He's just his contract's going to be done.
No one's going for CJ Sapong. Thank God he's what is he on, a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal? Do we have him this season and next, or just this year?
Ayo signed under 20.
No, CJ.
CJ's a free agent after this year, but CJ.
Okay, so
Nashville's already carrying most of his cap hit, so it's not freeing up money for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, like in the end of the day, I mean, right now the players that have value where you can actually get some usable, GAM money back is maybe it's Matt Hedges, but even now he's injured. So that diminishes the value already. It's probably Sean Johnson. And
it's absolutely Sean Johnson.
It's Sean Johnson's probably giving you, and you probably can still get some value for Mac, nowhere near what you paid for him, but you probably have some value.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And then if you even entertain, I'm not even going there.
If this team sells Coelho, there'll be a riot on the streets.
It would be Jaquil. Jaquil's the other player right now that has any kind of sort of real value to teams, but you're not doing that interleague. You'd have to sell him somewhere and get
exactly.
Money. So and that's it. Really, realistically, maybe DeAndre in the league, maybe DeAndre Kerr has some value, but I think that's a player you want to hang on.
Definitely, and we're forgetting about Kobe as well. But we'd be foolish if we don't hang on to Kobe for what he's doing. Kobe's he's building some value, but I don't think he has that.
Exactly what we're saying right now is what Bob Bradley ended up having to do last year, was sell all the good, promising young kids and be like us here. We're like, oh no, there's no way they can sell Kobe Franklin, but Bradley turned around and he
sold Jacob Schaffelberg. Yeah, exactly.
Jacob Schaffelbergs, the Luca Petrasos, the guys that were young and promising for the team because even Jaden Nelson wanted to go, but because those were the guys who had value in the league, right? There's no one really on
Francisco
Ibarra. They don't have Franco, but yeah, they don't have great value.
What did I call him?
All and Francisco.
That's gonna make him love the club more. Everybody's his name wrong.
His name's Kevin. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, this will be interesting. It's going to be very different than last year's summer window where everybody's like, "Oh my God, we're going to sign everybody. This is going to be amazing." It's a very, very different window this time around. We're
selling everybody. It's amazing.
Well, it's selling everybody / maybe some bargain basement hunting, and maybe getting an assistant coach somewhere from, I don't know, San Jose or something. All right, guys, let's wrap up the show. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Toronto Till I Die. We will be back next Monday evening recapping Toronto's away day in the Windy City, which I will be at. So I will be in Chicago.
Congratulations.
This weekend, checking out the away game. It's either going to be it will be a lot of fun. I'm going to make it fun. I don't know if the team will help me make it fun, but we'll see.
What's the deep dish place you should go to?
I hate deep dish. I'm not a deep dish guy.
No, I'll send you. Yeah, I'll send you some.
You're gonna send me all the deep dish places, because
you better go. You better
not
for
deep
food.
dish, not deep dish.
For the sake of Food Corner, I want a deep dish tape next week. All right, Mike?
Okay, fine. All right. So anyway, I'll be in the Windy City and eating some roast pizza. Remember to check out the new Toronto Till I Die YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TTID podcast. Hit the bell for notifications and subscribe. It will help you. Just make sure you don't miss an episode, okay? For Michael Singh, for Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Mike Newell. Cheers, and we'll see you next week.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.